Welcome to another episode of Weather Not. The weather has been very spring-like here in Pennsylvania the last week or so. Michael Priante will have details on if this spring-like warmth will last into the upcoming weekend. Marissa Lautenbacher has a feature on how the warm weather this winter has impacted the ski season in Pennsylvania. We'll have all of that and some nature in the news stories next on this episode of Weather Not. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Michael Spagnolo.
And I'm your forecaster, Michael Priante.
For spring break last week, some pretty pleasant weather here in Pennsylvania. In fact, above average temperatures all across the eastern seaboard last week and even into parts of this week.
That's right, Michael, but unfortunately we won't be having those warm temperatures, those temperatures we experienced earlier this week, and especially last week. Temperatures were in the 70s and 80s for much of Pennsylvania and the Northeast. We won't be dealing with that this weekend as we have a very powerful storm that's over the Great Lakes that is dissipating, but it will be bringing some wintry precipitation and much cooler temperatures, but I'll talk about that and the timing coming up in my forecast.
Looking forward to it, but now here's the nature in the news stories.
The United Kingdom has been the world leader in offshore wind energy for a very long time, and it plans on remaining one of the top leaders by adding more offshore wind farms. An energy company based out of Denmark is planning to develop the world's biggest wind farm off of the coast of Yorkshire, England. This farm, when complete, will have a capacity of 1.2 gigawatts. This energy storage capacity will make it the first wind farm to exceed 1,000 megawatts. The project will take 240 wind turbines and spread them over 157 square miles over the North Sea. This has been noted as a prime location for harnessing wind energy. A report by the UK Met in 2014 showed that the North Sea was rated one of the windiest locations in Europe. Construction is expected to begin in late 2016 or early 2017, and although there is no current offshore wind farm along the United States coastline, there are plans for the energy company to bring the development team to the U.S.
According to a poll conducted by AccuWeather, 83% of people think daylight saving time is no longer needed. Last weekend, people living in 48 out of the 50 U.S. states set their clock forward 1 hour, extending the amount of daylight in the evening and shortening it in the morning. Daylight saving time was created in 1918 during World War I, when resources and energy were looking to be saved, hopefully by centering the active hours of the day better with the natural light. While it was no longer mandatory, it was once again enacted for World War II, before becoming optional on a state-by-state basis in 1966. Currently, Hawaii and Arizona do not observe daylight saving time, and it's possible other states will soon join them in the coming years. As in this day and age where it is often debated if adjusting these clocks makes enough of an impact on energy costs to be done every March and November.
Around the periodical cicadas will be making a buzz in the Northeast this spring, as cicada larvae called nymphs will make their journey above the surface. Cicadas usually arrive in batches that occur to 13 to 17-year cycles and migrate to numerous locations in the northeastern United States. The nymphs stay mostly dormant under the ground and only start to emerge when soil temperatures rise above 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite this year's warm winter temperatures, the emergence of the cicadas should not be impacted, as air temperature has little impact on their appearance. Once these insects make their way to the surface, they will develop into adults, begin the mating process, and lay new cicada eggs. While the adult cicadas start to die off, the new cicada nymphs will hatch and burrow into the soil, where they will feed off of nutrients from the soil. They then will wait another 13 to 17 years for the cycle to repeat.
With the recent string of warm days here in State College, doctors have taken note of three main positive impacts that warm weather has to our health. First up is the boost in mood, especially with the first warm weather days of the year, as the winter blues experienced by some come to an end. This boost in mood often leads to a motivation to exercise and a change in attitude that leads to a healthier lifestyle. Second is often a better night's sleep. The longer hours of daylight helps to set the body's internal clock on track, ensuring it's easier for us to fall asleep at an appropriate time. And last is the increase in the intake of vitamin D. Spending more time outside in the extra hours of daylight strengthens the bones and lowers the risk for disease. Just be sure to wear sunscreen if you spend extended times outdoors.
Well, it was pretty warm here in State College last week. Temperatures were in the 70s and 80s. That is well above average for this time of the year. And even earlier this week, we had temperatures 10 to 15 degrees above average. But going into the weekend, though, it looks like winter will make a brief comeback with some wintry precipitation for the day on Friday, and the weekend will remain cold. Now, here is our Friday forecast, and well, high pressure is still well off to the west, and it will be pretty windy on the backside of this cold front as we had a storm system over the Great Lakes move to the north and east, and now here it is over Maine, and on the backside of it we have some moisture to deal with. And there's enough cold air aloft that there will be some rain and snow showers in the mix, especially here in State College. It won't be anything huge in terms of accumulations. I think we might see less than a coating of an inch early on the Friday morning. But again, the sun angle is pretty high in the sky, so most of that, if there's anything on the ground, will be melted by Friday afternoon. Again, it'll still be pretty windy out there, and with cold temperatures, it's going to feel like it's well below freezing. Going into the day on Saturday, high pressure starts to slide eastward, and what that means is that it'll start to get dry. Clouds will start to clear out, and the sun will make a return. However, temperatures will still be cold in the lower 40s, and again, the wind will start to die down by the afternoon, so temperatures will start to feel more like what it actually is. By Sunday, though, clouds will return. The high pressure starts to slide off, so more clouds start to filter in from the south and west as we have a storm system that is brewing out in the ocean. Most models have it going out to sea. Nothing to worry about here in State College, although most places on the coastline, especially New Jersey, going up into Long Island and Cape Cod, might experience some snow showers out of it, but again, for them, doesn't look like it's going to be too bad of a storm. For your day on Friday, again, 43 degrees, scattered rain, snow showers, a bit windy in the morning, otherwise mostly cloudy skies. Going into the evening, clouds will start to clear out. 27 degrees, it'll feel really cold out there. Again, the clouds will start to clear out and continue to clear out. And then by Saturday, again, partly sunny skies, 40 degrees, a little bit of wind in the morning, but that will die down by the afternoon. And then going into Saturday evening, even colder, 25 degrees, partly cloudy skies, but it will remain dry, especially for your first day of spring. That is Sunday, March 20th, and it starts at 12:30 a.m. But look at that, mostly cloudy skies and 41 degrees. That's something you would see for the first day of spring. But speaking of snow, here's a feature now that Marissa has on ski resorts and how the warm weather this winter has affected them.
This winter will be one to remember in the mid-Atlantic, not just because of the massive snowstorm that bombarded the Mason-Dixon line in late January, but because of the lack of snow for those who depend on it. Ski resorts depend on Mother Nature to blanket their mountains with plenty of natural snowpack. Ski resorts in Pennsylvania had some of the latest season openings they have ever experienced. Round Top Mountain Resort in Lewisberry, their opening day wasn't until after the holidays were over. January 6th was their opening. Normally, resorts will open as long as they have cold enough conditions in order to start snowmaking, which is an entire process on its own. It did not help that this past winter didn't see any significant snowfall or even consecutive days of freezing temperatures until January. It was one of the warmest Decembers on record that brought temperatures in some areas of PA into the 60s, even 70s around Christmas. Thankfully, the 2.5-foot snowfall totals that occurred in the southernmost counties of Pennsylvania brought the much-needed snow to the ski resorts. Some folks took advantage of the fresh powder.
I only got to go out once, and that was because I was craving it really bad. All the other times I was offered to go out to snowboard, I said no because the conditions were just too bad. The snow is very thick and very hard to glide and carve through. It also makes for a wet environment when you fall, crash, or even just sitting on the chairlift. All the seats are very wet, and then you're just soaked, and then when the wind hits or the cold rolls back in, you're just freezing. In the case of ice, which just happens when the snow just melts and just freezes, no precipitation, it's just the ground's really hard, so when you crash, you get hurt more, and it's significantly difficult to carve in it.
Locally, Tussey Mountain concluded their season this past Saturday, as they used up the last of the snowpack for their annual snowmobile race. Round Top Mountain closed their slopes for this season this past Sunday. Temperatures around the Harrisburg area almost reached 80 degrees last week, which didn't help any of those who wanted to get in some last-minute skiing. Camelback Resort in the Pocono Mountains is also preparing for the end of their season, which is projected to be in early April. Penn Stater Scott Matuszewski shared his experience of skiing last week during spring break at Camelback.
I actually just recently went last week. The conditions were much more spring-like with temperatures approaching 70 degrees. And in terms of the winter for Pennsylvania and other East Coast locations, the ski season was actually fairly poor. It was probably some of the worst conditions on record in some areas of the East Coast. Earlier in the year, I actually went out to Colorado to ski, and out there they were actually having a much better ski season with conditions well above average in terms of snowfall for the year. A lot of people love powder skiing, which is when you have a lot of fresh snow that's not very compact, and when you ski that, it's a lot of fun because the snow actually goes, knee to waist deep as you're skiing, and that's a lot of fun. Some skiers like when there's a lot of snow but it's groomed, so then you can carve and go pretty fast, but those are probably the two best type of skiing conditions to have.
The Rocky Mountains have been more fortunate than the East Coast with their snowpack. Overall, for the ski resorts in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, the ski season was cut short due to the lack of snow, which deterred skiers and snowboarders alike. Ski resorts next year are hoping that the next winter will bring plenty of snow to build up their snow base, as well as temperatures being optimal for snowmaking. For Weather or Not, I'm Marissa Lautenbacher.
Well, going into your extended forecast here, looks like winter is going to be making a slight pit stop here in State College on Friday. Scattered rain and snow showers, temperatures 43 degrees, so we have some wind on the backside of that cold front. Will make things feel a little bit colder, especially for the evening. It says 27 degrees, but if you factor in the wind, it's going to feel much colder than that. Saturday, partly sunny with a temperature of 40 degrees. That sun will be out, but it will not warm things much more than what it actually is. And then in the evening, we get down to the middle 20s, for a low. Sunday, again, mostly the same, especially for the first day of spring. 41 degrees. We want those warmer temperatures for the first day of spring. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be expecting that on Sunday. But going into next week, though, Monday starting off a bit wintry, 38 degrees for a high. Going into Tuesday, we start to get around average with a mix of sun and clouds. By Wednesday, it gets a little bit wet. Thursday, partly cloudy skies, again, still above average. And then by Friday, we still remain wet. It looks like the third week of March and the first week of spring is starting off to be above or near normal.
Thank you for that forecast, Michael, as always. Now, it looks like we still have the potential to have the least snowiest season on record here in State College since records began on campus in the 1880s.
Right, and if you looked at my forecast, it doesn't look like we're going to be expecting much snow from this disturbance, but just for the record, if we get less than 1.5 inches of snow, that means that we will officially receive the least snowiest winter season here in State College.
And it looks like with the long range that is definitely possible given how warm it has been and how warm it may continue to be for parts of spring here in State College. Now to jump to the weather whiz quiz question, which was related to Michael's story on his Nature in the News story on wind turbines. What is the minimum wind speed needed for a wind turbine to generate power? Is it A, 3 miles per hour, B, 8 miles per hour, C, 12 miles per hour, or D, 15 miles per hour? If you chose B, 8 miles per hour, then you are correct.
You know, Mike, that seems a little bit odd that a wind turbine would need 8 miles an hour to be the least sustained wind speed. You know, you'd imagine to have a higher gust to sort of generate more energy.
Yeah, it's not so much about the wind gusts. Even those turbines, they are fairly large, but a consistent wind speed, such as 8 miles per hour over a couple of hours, will be enough to generate a fair bit of electricity from those.
Okay.
And that's all the time we have for this episode of Weather or Not. I'm your host, Michael Spagnolo.
And I'm your forecaster, Michael Priante. Enjoy the rest of your day.